But we get started with a question, and it is a question that I'm not sure we can answer until we actually see what they do, but it's a very important question.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
All eyes right now, for all of us, are focused on the pending, looming Kevin Durant trade. The trade that appears to be close to its conclusion. Feels like we are closer to the end of this long journey that dates all the way back, truthfully, to January. That's when this first started, when they considered trading him at the deadline. And we are now finally, seemingly, just days away from the conclusion of this saga. Now, more things start the moment that the Kevin Durant trade ends. But this is our first look at Brian Gregory as a general manager. This is our first look at the self-described new and improved Mat Ishbia, a more hands-on Mat Ishbia, a more involved Mat Ishbia. This trade is our first look at both of those gentlemen. And I would say, as we sit here today on a Friday the 13th, that it feels like there isn't a lot of trust, there isn't a lot of faith. There are people scared of what a Brian Gregory, Mat Ishbia-led Phoenix Suns team may look like. There's concern on whether or not you will maximize the Kevin Durant return. There are concerns about what Mat Ishbia being heavily involved actually looks like. Will this team take the necessary steps to turn their course around? All of these are questions, and they stem from one place. They stem from a place of not trusting the people in charge. If you are worried, if you are concerned about what they're going to do in a Kevin Durant trade, what they're going to do in the draft, what they are going to do in free agency, it stems from a place of untrustworthiness. It stems from a place of uneasiness. I don't think there's anybody out there within the sound of my voice watching us on YouTube that feels concerned that if forced into the position that Mike Hazen isn't going to nail the trade deadline if he needs to be a seller. Just as there isn't a concern if he is put in a position to be a buyer, there's zero worry. Why? Because you trust Mike Hazen. You trust Ken Kendrick. You've got proof. There's a resume. There is a body of work spanning enough time for where you are comfortable with Mike Hazen in these situations. Even though it would be terrible for this team to have to sell at the deadline, you would feel like you have the right person at the wheel. We don't feel like we have the right people at the wheel right now for the Phoenix Suns. So that leads me to this. Can these two win us over? Can Mat Ishbia and Brian Gregory, in their first chance to maybe earn just a little bit of trust, not a whole lot, not the trust that Mike Hazen has, perhaps not the trust that Monty Ossenfort has, perhaps not the trust that Kenny Dillingham has down in Tempe, just a little bit of trust to where the arrow is no longer trending downward. Can they do that? That is the bare minimum to try to turn the perception, to try to turn the optic around. Can they do it? Will they be able to do it? What does that need to look like? All the questions that I'm asking here today ahead of what I expect to be news at some point next week for us to discuss here on the show, based on the reporting that's out there of Kevin Durant being traded. When we get to that moment, whether it's next Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when we get to that place and the bulletin flashes across the screen, you get the text alert, producer Evan jumps in and tells me that the trade has happened, are we going to feel like, yes, they got enough here, this is a good sign? My worries about Mat Ishbia being too involved, my worries about a first-time GM overseeing a major move, they are alleviated just a little bit. That to me is more important than the specific players they get back, although we'll talk about that today as well. It matters more than the specific draft picks, 14 from San Antonio, 10 from Houston, whatever other first-round picks potentially could be thrown out there. The specifics don't matter as much as the vibes do. The vibes are what's going to matter here. When we get that bulletin, when we hear the news of a Kevin Durant trade, are we going to feel like the Suns got fleeced, or are we going to feel, oh, they actually did a good job? Can these two guys win us over? That, to me, is the black cloud that is hovering over all of this, because it is our first test. It is our first answer. And if they pass this test, if they give us the correct answer here, it can allow you to get excited about Jordan Ott as a head coach, probably like you want to be. It can get you excited about what this team could potentially accomplish in the draft, and it can get you excited about what this roster can look like. But right now, there's no room for excitement. There is no room to entertain this team being good because you don't trust the people in charge.
Half this battle is the actual players you get back. The other half of this battle for the front office is building trust with a fan base that has no faith right now.
I would take it a step further. You want to put it at 50-50, I would be stronger. I think it is 70-30, trust versus the actual return. Now, if you get a good return, you're going to get the good reaction. But this is their first chance to show us that. Mat Ishbia wants to be more involved. We all think that's a terrible idea. We all think that that's going to end in disaster. The meme of the dumpster on fire, it's what we expect if Mat Ishbia continues to be heavy-handed about his role in things for the Phoenix Suns. But I am willing to be proven wrong. This is their first chance to do that. So that's why it's so heavily weighted towards there is zero trust. We are at rock bottom trust levels with this organization. You are now on your fourth head coach in the last 4 seasons. You have an inexperienced person sitting in the GM chair. That is not a shot at Brian Gregory. It is just the reality of his qualifications for the job. And you have an owner who has looked us all in the face, or I guess behind an email to the rest of his staff, and said, I wasn't involved enough in the past, and we laugh at that. We are scared by that notion. That's where this team is right now. That is the place that we find ourselves mere days away from the most important move this team is going to make in the last half decade. So I'm sorry if the trust levels aren't off the chart today. If they haven't been off the chart since the end of the season when you fired another head coach. This is why the Michigan State stuff comes up as much as it does, because there is no trust. It would not matter if you had belief in the people in charge.
Wouldn't matter whatsoever. But because you've created a pattern, you now have turned a fan base almost against you. And you have to continue to build back that trust. This is their first chance to do so. Do I think they may have gained a little bit in a Jordan Ott press conference? Maybe. I think you and I both thought it went well, but I still think that goes on the back burner to where this Kevin Durant trade can land you.
What did we say the day after Jordan Ott got hired? That guy sounded like the adult in the room. That guy gave me the most confidence. The problem with that is he doesn't have the biggest say. The Kevin Durant trade is going to be made by the people that have the biggest say. And that can allow me to be excited about Jordan Ott. Now, you got to land the plane here. I'll admit, I'll be the first person to throw my hands up. I don't know what landing the plane here looks like. I don't. If we use their own, at least through public reporting, their own expectations for this trade of getting back similarly, comparable, I believe is the word that was used by Wendy, to what they gave up for him, then they aren't going to meet that bar and we are not going to trust them. That's not the bar I want to set for this. I've been very consistent. Couple draft picks, maybe 2 at the most. Give me 2 young players, 1 starter, 1 guy with a high ceiling, a potential, a project. That to me is what you're going to get here. If they do that, if they land this plane and that is the the guts of this deal, I'm going to give them a little more trust. Not a ton. We'll use a word we've been using all week. A little bit of breadcrumbs. I'm looking for breadcrumbs. Please. The Diamondbacks gave us breadcrumbs this week. Could I get a little bit of breadcrumbs coming out of PHX Arena in downtown Phoenix?
I just need 3 to 4 assets that I feel, even if it's a Hail Mary, that you could turn into something real. That's what I need. I need something where I'm like, young guy, I think they could develop him.
I need to see a vision. I need to see what you're trying to do. And this is going to be not words, not fancy phrases at a press conference.
The alignment.
A vision. A vision that is seen through what you can get back for Kevin Durant. Showing to all of us what you are prioritizing right now. Actual actions. Not words, not fancy phrases, not reporting. An actual, tangible thing to look at.
A vision, a path. Maybe get a player that you've talked about, this new culture you're going to build. How about show me that in a trade with a player that plays like that?
Give me a poster child for the vision that you are trying to enact. I know Devin Booker is the figurehead. He is the face of your franchise, as he should be. But this trade, you can give me a face. You can give me a poster child for what you are trying to do.
And just because he's the face of your franchise doesn't always mean he's the face of your culture.
No, most of the time it goes hand in hand. It doesn't always have to do that, though. Right? I don't classify Jason Tatum as the culture there in Boston. Right? For the longest time, Marcus Smart was the culture there in Boston. Right?
I agree.
They took this year to Peyton Pritchard to an extreme level, right? There are some places where the culture isn't the face of the franchise. Some places need that. I think this team needs a little bit of that. They need Book to lead by example. But when it comes to this specific trade, show me something. Show me what the vision looks like. And that's when you start to earn the trust back. That's when you start to allow people, or people are more willing to, is maybe a better way to phrase it. People are more willing to get on board with what you're selling. Right now, the optimism, the excitement level around this fan base is towards the bottom, if not at the bottom of all the teams in the NBA. Towards the bottom. There's no excitement. There's no optimism. There is a concern of what bad thing's going to happen next. What bad decision are we going to make this time?
Right now, people are selling Sun stock. Get them to a position where they at least hold it. Maybe not buy, but get them to a position where, like, hey, we're not going to sell quite yet.
Easy. Buy or sell's coming up at 11:45. Don't do buy or sell ahead of buy or sell. But very good point. Right now, people are shorting Phoenix Suns stock. Get them to start buying. The way you do that, the path you get back to people buying in, is how you conduct yourself in this trade. What you get back in this trade. We have always said we are rooting for Brian Gregory. We want to be proven wrong about Brian Gregory. Here is his first chance. Mat Ishbia, we think it's a terrible idea that you are being more hands-on. Here is your chance to maybe allow us to take a step back and reflect and say, we were wrong. Now, I think our take's going to age pretty well there. There's a long track record across all sports that when an owner starts just buffooning around and just starts just smashing buttons, it doesn't work. So I've got history on our side of the argument here. So we'll see. We'll see who's right.